Welcome back. This is the Unstuck movement, true testimonies of breakthrough. I'm your host, Rob Z. Today we have the wonderful, the powerful Jennifer Frye with us on the podcast. Jennifer is a industry disruptor, and so I want to talk about disruption in this episode because I think it's so important for us to be a disruptor and the things that we do in life to shake things up and to wake people up. And Jennifer, I'm curious right off the bat, how do you define being a disruptor, and why are you a disruptor?
Sure. Thank you. And thank you for having me. I love format here and I love what you guys are doing in the conversations you're creating. I think a disruptor it's one of those buzzwords and it's used a lot in some areas. And I think also it's a subjective answer. Whoever you're going to ask, you're going to get a slightly different response, but I'll give you mine, which is a disruptor is someone who operates outside status quo. Someone who's committed to providing service products that are so far superior to anyone else in their space that we can literally render them irrelevant through some really targeted messaging and very, very specific reasons where we really highlight what sets that disruptor apart, which is usually about building relationships versus transactions.
Yeah, man. Building relationships is everything in our life, and having that be an art form as something that we do that breaks the patterns for other people and breaks the pattern in how we expect business should be done and how relationships should be built. I love having that conversation because it is such an important conversation. This platform is all about finding those breakthroughs, right? The Unstuck movement is about finding those breakthroughs for your life and for your business. You must be able to disrupt you and disrupt things in order to find breakthroughs. As we hit plateaus in life, as we reach glass ceilings in our business, we have to have those disruptions to create the breakthroughs that are necessary. So this platform is sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. You can check out connectedleadersacademy.com. And also, if you are a go-to expert in your industry and you want to be known as the authority in your space, the authority in your field, make a real impact on people's lives, and also get your value out to others and make incredible connections, I would urge you and welcome you to join our waitlist for the Pro Podcaster Academy at robzwentz.com. Jennifer Frye with us today, founder of Appreciated Asset, has dedicated her career to connecting businesses with resources that enhance sales opportunities. With extensive experience in business development, she empowers women, especially single moms, to redefine what it means to have it all. Jennifer, thank you for being here today. And I want to know, for yourself personally, you're talking about separating yourself. How do you separate yourself?
In terms of how are we disrupting?
Yes. What does that look like for you in a real practical day-to-day manner?
Yeah, sure. So I think we have eliminated our resistance to change. We've eliminated our resistance to thinking that just because we've always done things a certain way does not mean we have to continue that way. So we're really committed to innovation at Appreciated Asset. A couple things that make us very disruptive quickly would be our consultative approach for our clients. We have concierge level done for you appointment setting service, but we work consultatively, which is very different from anyone else out there. The way we do our messaging is, again, quite dynamic and goes a lot deeper than most other discovery processes. And then the way we build our lists is cross-referencing their ICP, the ideal client profile of the ideal demographics, with their ideal psychographics, which again is very, very different. It takes a long time to do this, but the results are so much better than just, buying a big data list and throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall to see what sticks.
So when you're talking about eliminating that resistance to change, how have you done this for yourself? Because I want to go, of course, I want to talk about how you help businesses and people grow. But I think for you, it's important to understand why this is your expertise. What is your background that led you up to this place? Were you always somebody who was ready to break through and find change no matter what? Or were you somebody who was resistant to change and you knew you had to change that about yourself?
I have always been called disruptive. As a child, it was never as a compliment.
Yeah.
But I was always looking at ways to do things better and differently, and things that were very obvious to me, that were not necessarily obvious to others. So I've never been afraid to rock the boat. For most of my life, have not been afraid to use my voice, to speak up when I felt like there were better ways to do things, which is one of the things that made me a horrible employee. um, but I'll tell you, a breakthrough for us, something that got us very much unstuck, was a few years ago. I was having some trouble identifying what our ideal client was. And what I realized is that our ideal client were disruptors, or businesses that wanted to be, because when we had someone with that sort of psychographic, then we had a space to collaborate, to think outside the box, to really create this intentional strategy together. And that was a huge breakthrough for us, because up until then, it was just like, we work with businesses, like we work with people with skin, right? and great as you're building, but as you really, really elevate your business and bring it to that next level, you have to understand the psychographics of who you work with ideally.
Mm. So how do you identify someone who is a disruptor? What are the characteristics that stand out that is who they are?
First of all, I would say it's very much a growth mindset. Someone who is always kind of addicted to learning and addicted to innovation. And again, not just innovation for innovation's sake, not change for change's sake, but someone who is so deeply committed to their client experience that they're willing to get uncomfortable with that change. Because, guys, it's just not comfortable. It's not super fun when you've got to just change course and do things differently from the way you've done them. It takes a little bit of time. But the more you resist it, what did they say? What you resist persists, right? So I think I've always been a quick start. I've always been someone to, once I make a decision, go all in. And I look for that in others as well. I look for people who are just committed to excellence, over comfort.
Yeah, and it's so easy to fall into comfort. And my wife is like that. She makes decisions, and I've struggled throughout my life to make clear and concise decisions. So I noticed that the more I'm actively and fully aware that, like, hey, you got to move fast and you've got to have more speed in what you do. Because so the concept is, right, if I make quick decisions, something's going to go wrong and I'm going to realize, oh no, I made a big mistake here, right? But somebody who makes a lot of quick decisions knows you pivot quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you make a decision, you give a test, you pivot, and then you keep making changes until you get it right. And they say success loves speed.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm curious for you, where has this, in maybe your business life, has this posed a problem, and how did you get over that hump? So say making quick decisions can pose a lot of issues. Maybe an example of like where you've made a fast decision, it's brought a bunch of issues up, and then you had to overcome that, very quickly. Do you have a good example for that?
Oh, last year I decided that while I'm growing a successful, thriving business, I'm also going to help single parent business owners. And I just went all in on this. It was something that I'm like, I look back now and it's so frustrating. But I just decided, now I wouldn't say I took my foot off the gas in my business. I just had another pedal down too. And so
You added a second gas pedal.
I'm going in two directions. I mean, it was wild. And what it did is it brought me out of alignment with what works in my business. And it also, it confused people. Whereas now I actually have brought this back around, and I've now realized that the way I can help single parents because it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. I'm a solo mom to my son. So now what I do is I grow my team through single parents and military spouses because I believe firmly in helping specifically women create financial independence for themselves because that gives us agency of their own lives. So I did still bring it back around, but I was on a detour that really took me away from what was working very well in my business. And that was not a good idea.
So that's really good perspective because especially when you're an entrepreneur and creative types, right? And people who are inspired, you want to dive into different things because you know this is where I'm supposed to be. You know I can help in this arena and in this arena. So you dive into too many things. How have you taught yourself to dial that back? So I found that's a great solution that you found. So you basically brought people on board to help
Yeah.
them in their single parenting. I love
Yeah.
that. So they're
Yeah.
working for you in that regard. But so,
Yeah. That's
but
been building my team.
what advice would you give that you had to give yourself as like all these great ideas? How do I choose what is the right thing to chase after?
Yeah.
How do I choose what is the right thing to double down on? And how do you block out the rest of the noise?
Well, I think it's really important to get your business to a place where it is self-managing, where your team is self-managing. If you are someone who has a lot of ideas, who's got a lot of initiatives and passions and things that you want to pursue, you cannot do that while growing a team, while training new people, while in client acquisition phase. So if that is something that's important to you, create milestones for yourself of where your business needs to be, what's working, where your core needs to be, how you need to grow that, so you can support those other initiatives. Because, one of the things you said in the beginning about my bio that I want to show people how they can redefine having it all. We just don't have to have it all right now at the same moment, right? It doesn't have to look like that, but we can have roadmaps, and those roadmaps can include all of those things that we want to do and accomplish. You just can't neglect what's working in order to pursue something to see if it works.
Yeah, very true. And so this is the part of the patience of everything, right? It's like you may have something that's working and you really want to get to somewhere else. And I truly believe this. And I'm curious how you feel about this. What I've noticed for myself is if I branch myself off in a bunch of different directions, I'm going to pay the price for that. My business is going to pay the price for that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I strategically plan and just kind of, being aware of the trajectory and direction that I'm heading in, if I strategically plan things correctly and pay attention, I can interweave like you did. I can interweave concepts like my podcast and teaching people to do podcasting. I found that, okay, I really love doing that. That's something that's been a big part of my life, and broadcasting has always been a big part of my life. And at first I was like, oh, I can do coaching and do the podcasting. And I was like, no, this is too much. They need to be married together. It needs to be connected. But I was like, I don't know how to quite do that yet. This was a couple of years ago. And then I realized that I was working with leadership clients and communication clients and business owners that they wanted to start podcasts. People wanted to get on top of their business and not so in it so they could be the face and the branding of their business and do podcasting, create content. And I'm like, oh, wow. So now some people that I'm working with, I can work with them on the leadership coaching to get them to a certain place so that they can launch their own platform. And now I'm actually teaching them how to do podcasting, how to do broadcasting and communicating in that form of marketing, and also still do the leadership coaching. But you have to be patient in seeing those things through. Where does that patience come from for you? And that, I guess, where does patience come from in your vision to allow those sorts of things to emerge?
I can hear my team laughing in the background as you ask about my patience because I have none. I am not a patient person. Intrinsically, it is not like a strength of mine at all. And that doesn't mean I'm difficult to work with or I'm impatient. I just, like I said, I'm a quick start. Like I move. So I think it's more of again, that perspective of it doesn't all have to be done today or decided today. And rather than looking at, finding the solution, I would say getting really curious and using that curiosity to create those conversations like you did. I love that story, Rob, because it's so true. Like, you found a way to offer another layer of support for your clients that they didn't know that they needed. Mm-hmm. Right? So it made perfect sense as you introduced it because it already aligned with what they wanted. You just showed them the how. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. It's not about trying to solve it immediately. It's about getting really curious and having those conversations with trusted advisors, with your business besties, right? The people that you really value their input, and talking it out. Journaling is an amazing way to kind of work things out in your head and get that energy moving. Whenever I feel stuck on something, I try to move the energy in several different ways, physically and on paper, and audibly as well, just trying to get through. I think that's it. Again, it's not patience for me. I wish I could tell you it was.
Well, it's interesting because that's something I've been doing recently that I noticed was really, because I used to journal a lot, and then I stopped journaling, and I recently started journaling again. But now that I'm journaling, what I'm doing is and this just kind of came to me one day as I was writing down questions while I was journaling, or while I was like writing something down as like a statement, I was turning it into a question. Mm-hmm. And then I was asking myself the question out loud. Yes. So I was just kind of like saying it out loud. Okay. And, just letting that question float out there. But I thought it'd be really helpful to jot it down, speak it out loud. And you get so much clarity from that. Maybe not right in the moment, but things come to you. And it's very cool how that happens, and magical, really, I would say, in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so real quick, we have to shout out the sponsor of the podcast for a minute. When we come back, though, you mentioned earlier how you go deeper in your messaging and how you help other people who are disruptors, go deep in their messaging. I want to know specifically what that means and looks like for you to go deep in your messaging and the impact that has had. We'll talk about that in 1 minute. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So I'm loving this conversation, Jennifer. It's so good and it's so important, and really important for us to think in a mindset of disruption. And when you talk about messaging, it's so important also with messaging because we hear that word so often if we're in business and marketing, and it can become overwhelming. You're talking about going deeper in your messaging. What does that look like for you?
Well, I think we start with a lot of prompts, a lot of questions about the business that to make you think about your business in a way you haven't thought of it before. But more than that, we've got to get inside the head of your ICP. You will never hear me talk about pain points or pushing the pain or finding the pain. It's not my style. It works well. It gets closes. In my opinion, it gets you transactions, but it will not build your relationships. I don't want someone to work with me because they are running from something, from the fear, from the pain to me. I want them running to me. And it's a different energy. So we start by really understanding what are your ideal clients, the dream clients, the ones that like, oh my gosh, it looks like this client, if I could have 50 of these, that's the dream. So how can you help them in a way that they don't know that they need the help right now? Because a lot of times, here's the deal, Rob, let me do it this way. No one asks for what they need. They're not talking, no one says, hey, Rob, I'm looking for a concierge level done for appointment setting service that focuses on industry disruptors. Who do you know? Right? I wish they would, but they don't. They're like, we need more sales. We want more leads. We want to grow more. We want more new business appointments. Those are the things that say, or they talk about disrupting. But what are your people saying? Use this prompt. Everyone listening, use that prompt. What are people saying who need you, who don't know that they need you? They're not saying that they need a leadership coach. They're not saying they need a podcast. What are they saying? And so it's prompts like that where we're really going to be able to create messaging that resonates. You ever talk to someone about what they do, about what you do, and they go, oh my gosh, I was just having this conversation. I was just saying that. I just had this exact, talk yesterday with someone in my office that we needed this. That's creating an ideal psychographic.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that comes to mind for me is, I had this conversation last week with somebody. It's like somebody says something along the lines of, I have so many big ideas, but I can never seem to get to the things like these big ideas. I get stuck. I get tripped up on the path of like getting the day-to-day stuff done to get to the big ideas. How do I ever get to them? They've been in my head or they've been written down for, years, because we can picture that. And going back to a little bit ago, you were saying about being able to know those, and that's what I was saying about the podcast. Like I could see this thing that I really wanted to get to, but it was like out of reach. Why was it always out of reach? Why was it always like I was always trying to get it and trying to make it happen, but day to day, week by week, month by month, year by year, it was not happening. And so I figured out, okay, this is what's getting in my way. I'm bogging myself down in minutia, spending my time doing a bunch of things that maybe need to get done, but I don't need to be the one who does them. And it was keeping me from the stuff I really wanted to get to. That's one for me that pops up for sure. Yeah. When you talk about prompts, go a little bit more in depth on that, because I don't think I even really had heard the word prompts used in like the messaging setting or in my business until like ChatGPT came out, and then you started building prompts for AI. And so it made me think, oh wow, a prompt for AI is like a prompt for people too.
Sure.
It's like something you're implementing that it encourages them to create ideas in a certain way. So going just a little more in depth on those prompts, like what they might really look like that question you just asked. How do you use those?
It's so interesting you say that about AI, because I never really thought about it that way. I've been using the prompt word for a long time, but you're totally right. So a prompt is, in my opinion, a new way to look at something. It's a new way to ask yourself a question from a different perspective. And a lot of times you can pull a lot from a prompt. Okay, so here's another one. I love talking about, we've already done what people are saying. What about what's standard in your industry? Like what is status quo that everyone else is doing, right? This is a great prompt. That everyone else is doing. I don't care about what you're doing, but what is everyone else doing that you're like, yeah, we don't do that. That's a really good one, because again, it helps set you apart. You're going to eliminate the preconceived misconception, right? I'll give you another. What do people hate about your industry? People don't like this one, by the way. It stings a little bit. Why is someone rolling their eyes when you call and you tell them what you do? What are the preconceived misconceptions that you're like, oh, no, it's not like that? Look, lead generation, there's a lot of preconceived misconceptions out there, right?
Oh yeah.
We don't have offshore call centers. We don't have robotic scripts. We don't have headsets. Well, some of my AEs do have headsets, I think. But
a headset's fine. I mean, it frees your hands up.
Right. I guess they do. But we're not robots. We're not, calling with like robo dialers. It's not AI answering, anything like that. And it's not about just throwing a bunch of garbage at the wall to see what sticks. Right. That's one thing. Or, other lead gens with the emails that they send out 5,000 emails and now you're spamming people. We don't work that way. It's you think you know what this is? It's not. That's not at all what we do.
I love that. What is a status quo that everyone else is doing in your industry, but we don't do that? Right. Because that helps you to really stand out and you can highlight that. It's a lot of people, business owners think that that's a negative. That's actually a net positive, right?
Yeah. 100%.
To break you out of the mold. And what do people hate about this industry? What makes them roll their eyes and figure out what that thing is? That's really good too. What was a prompt that you used for yourself that got you to where you are? What was something that you noticed when you asked yourself this thing, it changed?
Who do we work best for? Who do we work best with? I'm telling you, ever since we realized that we work best with industry disruptors, everything has changed for us. Because everything has, from that point forward, been focused on disruptors. And here's the beautiful thing about that, Rob. Not everyone's a disruptor or wants to be. And so they very, very quickly opt out from being anywhere near us. And I mean, do I want to work with everyone? Of course I do. I mean, I'm a business owner. I want to help everybody.
Yeah.
But it's a great way for people to opt out and opt in. The clients who work with us, they run to us. They don't run from something else. They hand raise. They say we're disrupting. No one hears us. No one sees us. Why doesn't anyone see how different we are from anyone else? We want to disrupt, but how? No one else can do it differently from this. And we help them kind of work through that as well. But the people who see the value there are magnetically drawn to us.
Yeah.
And the ones who do not have that same values alignment that we do, step away.
I do a lot of podcast episodes. So I talk to a lot of leadership coaches and a lot of business owners on this podcast. And so you're making me realize something. I notice disruptors because I have a lot of the same kinds of conversations and a lot of the same things come up over and over again. But there's certain episodes I'll have where I'm like, oh, that's totally different. Like I had a lady on last week who she helps people change their mindset through metaphors. And so she helps them implement metaphors into their life. Like you can't see the forest for the trees and things like that. And she'll have somebody draw an image. This caught me. She'll have somebody draw a mountain. She'll say, draw a mountain. What does a mountain look like to you? And then you'll draw a mountain and then she'll illuminate, okay, so like you drew this mountain. How would you get over this mountain? And so you have to then reconfigure the mountain in the way that you get over it. And she builds all of her stuff off metaphors. I thought that's genius. I had another guy on who is he works with teams. He helps teams work more efficiently together. But he's, for 25 years before that, was a family therapist. And so being a therapist, what he would do is he would watch for ticks in people. So he would watch when somebody talked about something, you could see a glimmer in their eye, or you could see them twitch a little bit or something, like fidget with their fingers. And he would call out these little things that they would do when talking about certain things, and he would highlight them, and that would create like these massive breakthroughs, right? So I just thought like, wow, that's a really interesting way of approaching a business model of leadership that you would only use in a therapy setting, and just little things like that. I was like, wow, those are disruptors, because don't hear anybody else talking about those things. But then most people bring up the same stuff over and over again.
Totally. And what I love about that is he didn't manufacture that. I mean, that is a gift that he has of seeing people, of reading people, of observing people, that he has learned how to help people. And what do they say about business? Like you create success from solving problems for people. That's remarkable.
Yeah. My mentor always, he always tells me, you have to create a buyer, especially when it comes to what we do. You're not going to sell anybody anything because nobody necessarily needs what you have. You have to create a scenario where they really need and want to work with you because you've helped them identify something. Like you just said, you helped them to identify something in their life or in their business that they didn't even know that they needed, that they didn't even know was a problem.
Yeah, I love that. I'm still thinking about your guy with the, because, again, like when you have something like that in your business that's so unique and that's so different, it will magnetically attract the right people, right? And more importantly, you will not waste your time with the people that you are not supposed to be working with either.
Yeah.
And I think as business owners, getting to that stage in our business is so empowering because we are in such alignment with our strengths and our zone of genius that we are willing to allow others to walk away from us when it is not truly the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do when you're first starting out and you need to pay your bills, right?
Yeah.
And it's a matter of like survival.
It's very true. And also, and also I wanted to say two things there. Number one, with that guy, and when he told me that, I was like, wow, I can think of people that I work with where they do something.
Yeah.
Like somebody that I work with does this when we talk about certain things. Their head kind of does that. And their head like just tilts to the side a little bit. And I thought, wow, I should really, in a very loving way, bring that up and be like, let's dive into what is that and what triggers you to do that, right? Because now you're uncovering something that nobody's ever addressed before. Most likely, that is something that probably nobody's ever brought up, which is going to bring upon ideas and concepts and maybe an awareness that has never been brought up to that person before. And that could be like the biggest piece to the puzzle. Sure. And that's going to get you amazing referrals. People are going to talk about that because, man, nobody's ever brought this to light. So I find that to be really powerful. And I think this is huge too. And this has been my situation. So I've been just in coaching now for a couple of years, right? So I am a firm believer that as I continue on this path, my niche will reveal itself to me, right? Just kind of like the podcasting that had kind of revealed itself to me. And when I was first getting into this, everybody was saying, find your niche. And I'm like, I need to first just coach lots of people and then the niche will reveal itself. Do you believe that? Or do you believe that like, as you're getting into something, you should know directly where you're going right away? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that you want to observe like what you're drawn to, right? You also have to be open to the fact that that business could go in a direction that you never saw coming. When I first started my business, we worked with B2B professional services, and we still do, but that's niched down now. But one of the other places we work with are home services, helping them build out their B2B business. So my favorite is like a pressure washer. We help them get with apartment complexes and property managers and strip malls, right? Really helping them build out their commercial business. I never saw that coming. When I started doing this, that's not anything that I considered, but it's a pretty significant percentage of our business now and has been consistently. So you've got to be open to it. But I think it's really about, I agree with you. I think you want to try a lot and see what you're really passionate about. And it might not necessarily be a demographic in terms of an industry. It could be a demographic in terms of revenue. You may be really broad here, but very narrow here. And that's okay too. It doesn't all have to look the same way for everybody.
Yeah. It's in the marketing world that we live in, especially online, when you start getting into the marketing space and you click on a couple of people's Facebook ads or Instagram ads, now you're being retargeted, right, by 50 different people who are trying to market things. So you keep hearing these you keep hearing the same messages over and over and over again. I think what happens in our modern culture, at least this is what I've noticed, is you get kind of brainwashed or tricked into thinking, oh, this is exactly what I need, when that's not necessarily true. It's just the algorithm is telling you this is what it thinks that you want. And so I guess a bigger question to ask you is like, how do you know yourself well enough? How do you know your business well enough to sift through all of the, it might all be good stuff, but it's not all for you. How do you sift through and find what is for you?
I'll go back to the lack of patience and the fact that I'm a quick start and learning by making some impulsive decisions. That sometimes it's less is more. Look, honestly, when it comes to marketing, I'm kind of like a cobbler's kids have no shoes person. I've built a marketing and sales business. It's really a sales business that solves a lot of marketing problems. We've built it with doing very little marketing for ourselves. I think you want to look at what are you drawn to and whom are you drawn to work with? Because I think that no matter what the medium, if you have a partner who is as deeply committed to seeing your success as you are, the medium doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have someone who's helping with LinkedIn, and you wouldn't necessarily think that that's the direction you want to go, but you have someone who's like your biggest cheerleader and your biggest supporter and just like is absolutely deeply committed to seeing you succeed, well, that might be a good person to align yourself with, as opposed to somewhere else where you're a transaction, where you're a number, and okay. And then the other thing I'll add to that is it a done for you or a done with you? Because I think a lot of times people get into a lot of done with you opportunities because they're less expensive, they're less of a commitment, but then they don't allocate the time and the implementation, so nothing ever happens. So you've spent all this money, and guys, that's an expense, not an investment. Whereas you spend a little more money in a done with you situation with a professional who is deeply tied to your success and your, best outcomes. And if you have that and you let them do it so you can focus in your zone of genius, that might be a better investment for you because it's not taking time and money at this point.
Yeah. I love that. That's really good. And finding people who are deeply invested in seeing you be successful. And that's a rare thing to find, right? When you find that, it's really something special.
Yeah. I think it's you can find it in a lot of business networking groups, the right ones, of course, right? Not the what's in it for me ones. But really finding your tribe, finding your most trusted advisors. And at that point, it's a no-brainer to work with them. You know that you're going to be huge supports. Yeah. And getting creative about what that could look like, right? We're all growing businesses here, so people may be open to engagements that are outside of scope of what they typically do. So you could get disruptive there as well.
Yeah, very good. I love that. That's very true and powerful. When you find those people, that is so powerful. So I want to encourage everybody to check out what you are doing. So if you want to help people uncover their leads, right? They can go to your website, appreciatedasset.com/lead-finder. When they go there, what can they expect?
So this is an exercise that we do with all of our clients. We do it on workshops as well. And it's basically a PDF that you're going to get that will show you all of these leads that are already in your ecosystem that you're probably not tapping into most of them. And all kinds of ways that you have opportunity currently, and how you can, really uncover those leads, uncover those opportunities. Because they're not all going to align for you. They're not all going to work for you, but guaranteed there will be ideas on there that you've not explored.
I love it. So make sure you check that out. Go to the website, appreciatedasset.com/lead-finder. And also, like I said at the beginning, if you want to be the go-to authority in your space, you want to launch your platform, go to robzwentz.com. Jennifer, this has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate your time. It flew by. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
I would just tell you to be willing to get uncomfortable, stand outside of status quo, and try something differently. Your clients will appreciate it. Your team will probably appreciate it because it'll get you out of some ruts that you guys probably didn't even realize you were in. And just reach out and let people know who you are and what you're doing so that they can work with you.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For sure. Another true testimony of breakthrough for you today. This has been the Unstuck Movement.